Nicola, thank you so very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule and joining me on the Quantum Creating podcast. And I'm really happy to have you, someone who comes from my birthplace. Actually, my family come from the Highlands. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We were just talking before we started recording about the beauty of social media and technology and how it can help in our circumstances, for instance. So we've connected over Facebook because we have similar interests. We do similar things.
Yeah.
One thing that always kind of interests me about coaches and speakers and lecturers and such like is the journey they had to becoming a coach. Usually it's really varied and really exciting and really random. So what was your journey to becoming a coach?
I think that there's always been a coach in me. Like, I remember being very young and saying, well, you know, coach, therapist, you know, a healer, whatever way you want to look at it, it boils down to wanting to help people, I think. And that has definitely always been inside of me. I remember saying to my dad when I was very young that I wanted to be a counsellor, and he was having none of it. He was like, you are not doing that, because I very much wear my heart on my sleeve, and he was like, if you do that, that will affect you in a negative way. You'll take that home with you. I don't think that's the job for you. So I listened to him thinking that he knew best, and then I ended up, it's ended up what I do now is helping people. So my life took a very unpredictable turn, let's just say. So a result of when I was 21, I nearly lost my life. I spent a long time, most of my childhood, my teenage years, and my adult life being bullied, very, very badly bullied. Wow. I got into modelling, and that made the bullying worse. Had a bit of a breakdown at 17, and then at 21 I was 10 minutes away from losing my life. I lost 7 pints of blood. I lost my first baby, and I was told that I literally was minutes away from dying. And at 21, that was definitely a defining moment. That really sort of changed me as a person. I just very much kind of it made me grateful, which is, I think, the secret sauce. It made me grateful for my life. And I think that was hugely important for me moving forward, because so many people get caught up in stuff that they shouldn't get caught up in. When really, if you just sit down and think about it, there's so many things to be grateful for. And that changed the direction of my life. And then I spent the whole of my 20s trying to sort of fit in, doing that stupid thing that I think a lot of people do, trying to fit in. I gave up loads and loads of amazing opportunities in modelling because I spent so much of my life being bullied and thinking that if I do well or if I get attention, they won't like it, so I need to just be like them. And I tried having like a normal job. Not that there's anything wrong with having a normal job. I don't think that I'm any better than anyone. I think that we're all equal, but I always had a feeling that I was destined to do more. Just had like an inner knowing that I was here to do more, and I didn't know what that was. I got to 30 and I really started, I think probably reaching that age of 30, really started getting me thinking, as this isn't really the life that I want to lead. I wasn't happy in my relationship, I wasn't happy in my career, and I just knew that there was more out there for me. And thinking back to when I nearly lost my life, I thought, you know, I don't want to spend the rest of my life like this, and it's down to me to really take responsibility for that. So I made the decision to leave my long-term relationship, start again, leave a very well-paid job and throw myself into the modelling again, because I gave up so many opportunities. And of course I had all the naysayers, you're too old, you'll never get anywhere. But I just used that as fuel to just prove them wrong, really. And that worked out very well. I ended up doing really well, and I made the top model UK final in London. I then was, my photographer persuaded me to enter into a big Scottish beauty pageant in 2012, and I couldn't think of anything worse, to be honest with you. The thought of being in amongst those types of girls in the industry.
All right. So I'm interested. I mean, when I speak to a lot of people, and especially coaches invariably, but people on the whole, there's usually a ground zero moment, a complete breakdown, something that happens. where there's no option but to
Yeah.
either change or
Yeah.
would you say that was the case?
Yeah.
You got to
Yes.
a point where
Yes, absolutely. So all of that all led to me making huge mistakes, both in my personal life, entering into a really bad abusive relationship, and that resulted in me being abused, unfortunately. And the situation was, I was then left. We were engaged to be married, and I fell pregnant with my daughter, and he kind of changed overnight and went from being this really nice guy to just a monster. So basically, the moment leading up to that moment for me was when I was given a decision. So it was either you stay in this abusive relationship and continue to be abused, or you leave. And at that point, I was pregnant with my daughter, so I was never going to put up with that. I had my son to think about as well. So I ended up homeless and pregnant at the same time. And actually, the life that I had led previously was so successful. I'd won my crown, I won the big Scottish beauty pageant, behind the career-wise, everything was wonderful. But personally, everything crashed in a very short space of time. Yeah. And that was definitely my lowest point of my life. I had nothing. I was left with nothing, and I was homeless and pregnant, and I picked myself back up again and went through the pregnancy and sorted my life back out again. But during that process, I'm making it all sound very easy. Obviously, it was very difficult. Yeah. But during that process, I don't regret any of it now, because it's actually what made me. It was very character building. It made me realise how strong I am. It made me strong. It made me very resilient. And through reading and research, and then eventually studying and getting my certificate in coaching, I knew that if I could get through all of that, and if I could not only survive but thrive and do well, then I absolutely had it in me to help other people. And that was that really. And I'm so glad that I did, because I've never been happier now. I help and change and save lives on a daily basis now. So
that's incredible. And did you, at that time that you were going through that and saying to yourself, if I get through this, I can help other people, were you then determined to help other people, to cope?
Absolutely. A lot of my success has been down to results that I've actually got while I was still sort of picking myself up off the floor. I made the stupid mistake, and I think probably a lot of coaches might do this actually when they first start out. I made the mistake of thinking that my life had to be absolutely perfect before I can start coaching. Yeah. And at that point, I was still living in the flat that I was in when I had my daughter. So it wasn't what I was used to. It wasn't where I wanted to be financially, certainly not house-wise and stuff like that. So in my head, I thought, I need to wait until my life is absolutely perfect, because I've got the perfect guy, the perfect house, perfect. And that's a load of rubbish, because we're all a work in progress. Nobody's perfect. And when I realised that really changed things. One of my neighbours who was struggling, she was suicidal, and I met her in the supermarket, and she was a mess. And I said to her, come to Minds and I'll do some coaching with you. Anyway, I'd done a few treatments with her, maybe an hour and a half coaching session, and she went from feeling suicidal to, it was like a new girl in a very short space of time. She could not believe the transformation in that time. She gave me a video testimonial, and that was the beginning of the huge success that I've had in my coaching.
And I think that's so insightful and a great thing for you to point out, because I'm at pains to speak to people, and the amount of people I speak to and say to them, look, none of us are perfect. Don't look at someone's success and see that as their starting point.
Yeah.
They started at the beginning like we all do.
Yes.
And in order to become a success in any area of life, even if it's just to be an upstanding member of the local community, which we can class as successful these days, you have to begin at the beginning. And so many people in today's society, and we spoke about social media and the beauty of being able to do this for free nowadays, where just a few short years ago it cost us thousands and thousands of pounds to do. People want things right away, and they're not prepared to do the waiting and play the patient game and think long term.
Mm-hmm. That's right. It's so true. And a lot of people, especially with coaching, I mean, the word is thrown about a lot these days, isn't it? I've saw in some groups, it's almost, you know, like we're being slated, everyone's a coach kind of thing. But I think that for anyone starting out, what I would say is, you know, don't focus on what other people are doing, because then if you start comparing and wondering if I'm good enough, and the imposter syndrome and all that all kicks in, just focus on yourself, and the only person that you need validation from is yourself. And if you know that you're doing it for the right reasons, from the right place, and you genuinely, I mean, everyone has got something that they can do to help people. It's about having that belief in yourself, and that's what I do. That's my strength. I really instill confidence in people, because that's the foundation for success in all areas of life, I believe. But confidence is a skill that you can learn. It's not something that you're either born with or born without. I mean, I had no confidence when I was younger, and now I'm very confident because I've got that belief in myself. And a lot of my clients think that if they put themselves out there, does that mean that they're kind of looking as if they're sort of full of themselves and arrogant? And it's not arrogant at all. There's a big difference between being confident, believing in yourself, and being arrogant. Arrogant, in my opinion, is actually on the same level of kind of insecure. If you're insecure, do you know what I mean? I think that it's important to work on yourself, know that nobody's perfect, and embrace the journey. I started getting testimonials and doing coaching for free. That was how I started. People that I knew needed help, I would give them the odd coaching session. I wouldn't charge them. I would maybe get some feedback, and that was how I started out. And when things manifested very, very quickly for me after that. I mean, you're talking within a year, I went from not coaching to coaching high-end Scottish professional footballers and saving their lives. So it's about your mindset. It's definitely all in your mindset, yeah.
It's funny you mentioned about professional footballers, because I don't know if you're aware that I used to be one. I
didn't realise that.
I left. It's fascinating because I was born in '69, so I grew up in the '70s, and back then all the boys were footballers. I was no different to anyone else. I probably wasn't that much more talented than anyone else, but I just had this idea that I couldn't get rid of, that I wanted to be a footballer, and this became a burning desire. So much so that I would go out into the backyard, I would kick a ball against the wall and catch it constantly for hours. I wanted to be a goalkeeper. I wanted to play for Chelsea. And, my mum actually thought there was something wrong with me, and took me to the doctors, because I was just obsessed, and she didn't think that someone of 7, 8, 9 could be that obsessed about one thing. And I remember the doctor just saying, he'll grow out of it. He'll grow out of it. And that stuck with me. And I don't want to grow out of it. I want to be a footballer. And I used to imagine playing at Stamford Bridge with the crowd and the commentators and all this sort of thing. Anyway, cut a long story short, I ended up signing for Crystal Palace. So I didn't quite get to play for Chelsea. And unfortunately, my career was cut short because of injury. So I didn't progress to anywhere near where I could have. But being in that male-dominated changing room, seeing the level of what we would call bullying or abuse, and was given the name banter. It buried kids. 15, 16-year-old kids were exposed to that, and they were destroyed mentally. So that's a huge area that we suffer from these days, not just in professional sport, but football is unique among that because of the levels of banter that gets thrown about, which is why I guess there's been no outwardly gay professional footballer yet. So how has that been working in that industry? How was that?
I'm still doing it now. I'm still doing it right now. What I've learned through working with my clients is that I'm very similar to Marisa Peer. I get to the root of the issue very, very quickly. So within one session, I find out exactly what the problem is, and then it's like that weed. You pull the weed out, and then you deal with it, and we deal with it. And I'm not a traditional coach or therapist. Like, I don't go over the problem again and again and again and again for a long period of time. So I find out what it is very quickly. We talk about it, we get it out, I recognise what the issue is, and then I use my own techniques and my own unique style of coaching to get them back on track, and it works very, very quickly. And I've had public testimonials from a few actually, but one in particular who's actually speaking at my next event in Glasgow. He was suicidal. He actually had himself on the track, ready to just end it all, waiting for the next train. I mean, he had the model wife, he had the big house, and had the big car, and he was very successful in football, but he got into drug use, using cocaine and things like that, which is very common. And he just didn't want to, he just couldn't cope with the pain anymore. So it's what I'm very passionate about, working with anybody that needs help, but in particular men, actually, because, you know, this sort of, I come from an area where it was quite rough. It was quite rough, and it was that kind of old school mentality that, you know, man up, and men shouldn't show their feelings, and men, and if you showed your feelings, it meant that you were, you know, that you were a blouse or whatever. It was terrible for men, I think, and that's one of the reasons why suicide and depression rate in men in the UK is so high, because they think that they're supposed to just be a strong man and not show their emotions, and that's not the case at all. I mean, men are human beings the same as women, and it's so important to not bottle these things up, and that's what I do. I create a safe environment for my clients to let the mask slip, so they don't need to be the perfect husband, the perfect this, that and the next. They can just be real, be vulnerable, and know that they're not being judged. And if I'm honest, I actually prefer working with male clients now. I think my style of coaching actually suits male clients, because I'm very direct. I think women love to talk about everything for a long period of time, and I think that I'm very sort of X, Y, and Z. This is what the problem is. This is what we need to do. Straight to the point, get it done. And it seems it's working very well. So if there's any men watching this, I would say to you, don't, you know, true strength is actually being real and being honest about how you're feeling, and nobody is happy 100% of the time. Our brains are wired differently, you know, so reach out and get help. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I do a lot of work with men, and I find exactly the same thing. And, you know, I was brought up in that way. I'm an old school South London kid. You know, if I cried, if I showed that I was upset in any way, I was told to shut up, or I'd be given something to cry about.
Yeah,
and that's how it was done. And, you know, it took an awful lot for me to actually transcend that, to rewrite that paradigm, and give my kids a safe play. I've got I've got 4 kids, but 2 of them are boys, 2 are girls. Give the boys especially a safe place to be able to express their emotions, express the fact that they, you know, that they were upset. And that really helped when I got divorced. My youngest son had real trouble. And the fact that I encouraged him throughout his life to speak his mind, to show his vulnerability, really helped him overcome that trauma.
That's good. That's excellent. And I think that, you know, it's very easy. I see a lot of my clients really struggling because mistake is all over 90% of the time it stems from childhood stuff. But, you know, it's our parents and, you know, people, everyone sort of does their best with what they know, and half of the time they're still struggling from what they went through when they were kids, and it just kind of, it's like a domino effect. But you're right, we can change that. We can change that by educating ourselves and passing that down on to our kids. And I've done that, you know, what I've went through in my personal life. When I look at my two children now, on paper, what I've actually went through, if I hadn't have dealt with it the way that I did, it could have very easily been a different story. But because I chose to make sure that I was on top form so that they led a happier life, and now this is where it ends with me as well, because I make sure that they're clued up and they're completely safe and comfortable showing their emotions. And my son's 13 next month. I can't believe I'm going to have a teenager next month. I don't feel old enough for that. But he's 13 next month, and he's at a very impressionable age. And, you know, there's talk in the school of, you know, things like alcohol and all that kind of stuff. They're all older boys talking about that. And we can sit and have a real proper conversation where we've got that mutual trust. And I'm so grateful for that, because I know that not many parents can do that. And I think that the work that we do definitely benefits in all of our relationships. And it's great that we can pass that on to our kids.
It is. It really is, and it kind of validates what you said earlier about looking back and being grateful for what you went through. And as you said, gratitude is the start of creation, isn't it? It's the start of changing your. I always liken it to take 100% responsibility in your life for everything. When the trains aren't working, clearly you're not responsible for that, but you're responsible for your response to it.
Absolutely.
And everything that you have a direct influence in, you are responsible for. And by practicing gratitude, by being grateful for what you've got, even if you perceive that it's not enough, right, you at least give yourself that ability to move forward and create more in your life.
Yeah, I mean, when I started really studying this stuff, one thing that I found fascinating, I think I've always been a naturally grateful person anyway, especially, the fact that when I lost my life, that kind of made me, every day I feel grateful for my life. And that, what I realised is that I kind of done it accidentally without even knowing what I was doing. And when I started studying it, the scientific fact is that if you're in a state of gratitude, it's impossible to be in a negative state. So you can't feel grateful and feel depressed at the same time. And so it's very easy to, my son's, as I said, he's 13 next month, but since he was a very, very young age, I call it attitude of gratitude. Yeah. So every day we would say, what are we grateful for today? Because what it does is it just trains your mind to focus on the good. And that for me is totally the secret sauce, because the more you focus on the things to be grateful for, the more of that you attract into your life. And for me, that completely changed my life, and it's definitely one of the things that I use in my coaching that changes my clients' lives. Because people, they'll come to me and they've got all this money and they don't understand why they're not happy. But yeah, gratitude is huge. If you don't do it, you should. I know that you do it, but anyone watching this should absolutely do it every morning. It doesn't have to be. You might think that you don't have anything to be grateful for. It could be anything. It could be the fact that you woke up in a house with a roof over your head, and you're safe, and your family's safe. And when you think about the people in the world that are really struggling, they don't have houses. They've got to walk miles to get dirty water to drink, and there's loads of things that you can be grateful for. And that'll just, if you do that as soon as you wake up in the morning, it's easier to sort of set the tone of your day. If you wake up and you get yourself into a negative state, you're starting to think about all the things that are already gone, that don't matter anymore. It's just like a vicious circle. If you just start your new day with a grateful heart, focusing on good, then you'll get more of that.
Yeah, I was fortunate to spend some time with Wayne Dyer.
Oh, really?
A few years ago, yeah.
Amazing. I love his work.
He's fabulous, isn't he? Absolutely fabulous. And I remember him saying, loving people live in a loving world. Hostile people live in a hostile world. Same world.
Yes.
And I say that, and I was like, when at the time, because let's be honest, we're real. We're humans. We have bad days. We have bad moments. Things go wrong. Sometimes we forget who we are and what we're about, and we allow that to take over. But if you go looking for bad things to happen, you'll find them, because the way your brain's wired, it becomes important to you to notice. So you start seeing it. So if you're focusing on gratitude, if you're focusing on good, you start to see more of it, as you say, and then you attract more of it into your life, and you can build from there.
That's right.
Nicola, apart from gratitude, what else do you consider to be absolutely non-negotiable for your clients?
Self-care. Yeah. I always say I teach selfishness, because they always think that they can't put themselves first. They can't look after themselves, because that means that they must be selfish. And I say, well, if that's selfish, then I teach selfishness, because it's a must. It's non-negotiable. Like, my self-care is non-negotiable. Right. If you don't, the way that you treat yourself is a demonstration to how you're teaching others to treat you. Absolutely. And if you are not treating yourself with love and respect, then you can't expect anyone else to do it. And you cannot expect to be the best version of you for yourself first and foremost, for your family, for your clients, your relationships, if you're not looking after yourself. It's a cliche, but you can't pour from an empty cup. So you have to make sure that you're looking after yourself so that your cup is overflowing, and then you can give from a place of being fulfilled and happy and rested. And self-care might be different things for different people. It might be 5 minutes of just sitting down. I love meditation. I meditate every day. that's non-negotiable for me. You know, it might just be reading a book, just sitting down, having a cup of tea, whatever it may be for each individual. Something that allows you to quiet your mind, something that feeds your soul. Yeah, self-care is right up there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Being an ex-pro athlete and someone that's trained and looked after himself, and having in the past a health and fitness business, you know, it's something that I'm fully on board with, and
Yeah.
I also encourage people to take care of. So we've got gratitude, we've got responsibility, we've got self-care. Would you say they form what I like to call a personal philosophy of yours?
Yeah. There's a few things that I do, and they're all definitely right up there. I think that taking time to like have fun as well, like enjoying things that you do, because I always remember being young and saying to my dad as well, I don't want to just be one of those people, not that there's anything, I'm not judging people, but I didn't want to just go to uni, get married, have 2 kids, have a job, and that was it, pay the bills, and that's it. I think that you need to find what really sets your soul on fire. For me, traveling is one of those things. I love to travel. I love reading. You know, get to know yourself. Get to find out what really feeds your soul and makes you really happy, and have fun with it. I think there's so many people now that they're just not happy because they're not taking time out to have fun anymore. Like, I'm a huge music fan. I love going to gigs. I love concerts and festivals and things like that. So, you know, don't allow yourself to get. To me, age is only a number, and it's all you can actually slow down the aging process by making sure that you have fun. And I think that more people need to do that, because everyone, you know, a lot of people take life so seriously and get so bogged down in all these small things, when really, you know, you could be gone tomorrow, and you don't want to get to the end of your days and look back and think, that's me, my time's up, I wish I would have done this and that. Live your life now, live it now. Don't wait until you get that car, or don't wait. These things won't make you really happy. They'll make you maybe short term, but traveling, experiences, feeding your soul, these are the things that will making a difference, giving back, are huge for me. So yeah.
Now, we're kindred spirits, Nicola, really we are. You know, I love the idea of giving back. I love the idea of connectivity. I love the idea of experiences. And I encourage my kids, you know, do everything with a big smile on your face. Do it like it's the first time you've done it. Enjoy it. You know, there's so much out there that you can do, and no one can tell you that you can't. So
that's right. Exactly.
Fabulous stuff. I'm curious, what's next for you? What's on the vision board, as they say?
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting things happening. I've just been speaking this morning, actually. It's looking like I'll be off to Italy in the summer to present something very exciting, and that's, you know, for me, I do a few things. Mental health and helping people be happier is definitely my main priority with my career. So I've got a brilliant event happening that I'm putting together on the 1st of February in Glasgow, and it's a day that will change and save lives, I believe, as well. So I've got that. I am doing my own personal one-to-one coaching, plan to have my book finished this year. Woo-hoo. And making sure that I'm just living walking the talk.
Yeah, which is really important. And I love that you're doing a book, and I'm going to keep an eye on you for that and make sure that. Where can people find out more about you?
My website is actually in the process of being updated, but I'm on social media, so Nicola Creen Coaching Academy on Facebook and Nicola Creen Academy on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. I have been booked to speak all over the UK this year as well to try and get this message out there. I just want to help as many people as I can. So I'm happy to Nicola Creen Academy @gmail.com as well.
All right, that's fabulous. Well, look, I'm really appreciative of the time you've given us today to join me on the Quantum Creative podcast, and it's been a truly amazing experience to speak to you at last and get that word out there that we're so passionate about sharing. So, Nicola, thank you so very much.
You're very welcome. You're welcome, Paul. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.